Imagine if your employees could set their own salaries and benefits without your approval. And all too often, they do as they please instead of following your wishes, or even doing what they told you they were going to do. And you can't terminate them for misconduct or lack of performance. Sounds outrageous, right? Yet that's exactly what we get with members of Congress, our supposed employees. They enjoy extravagant perks and benefits while we, the public, foot the bill. They pass laws and budgets that benefit the wealthy few instead of the majority of their constituents. How the hell did this even happen? Stick around because we're going to take a look at how this came about and what we can do to bring about a meaningful change. Hello and welcome. For those of you who don't already know, my name is Steve. And as you can see, I'm not a professional YouTuber and I'm not a politician. And as you can probably tell, I have a few years on most of you. As a matter of fact, I have a few years or more on 93% of the population of this country, which means I might have a little bit different perspective. And it just might be that different perspective that makes this video worth watching. I told you who I wasn't. Now I'll tell you who I am. I'm a concerned grandfather and great-grandfather who has seen a disturbing trend developing over the past 5 decades. And I've decided to devote my time and energy into reversing that trend and bringing this country back to a government of the people, by the people, for the people. One of the first things that I need to get out in the open is that this video is not about one party or the other. It's about a system that is broken, a system that works against most of us. It's about a system that is of the wealthy, by the wealthy, for the wealthy. But this video is also about what we can actually do to bring about a meaningful change, a change for our children, grandchildren, and generations to come. First, let me describe the problem. You see, when our country was founded, it was the intention of our founding fathers that our country would be governed by citizen legislators. It was the idea that congressmen would serve their term as public servants and then return to their previous life as blacksmiths, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. You get the picture. As you know, our current environment is light years away from the founding vision. And this is problematic for several reasons. First of all, it has become so lucrative to be in Congress that people with a true servant mindset are no longer drawn to the chaos that has become our government. Getting reelected has become one of the top priorities for every member of Congress. Many spend as much as 70% of their time generating funds and campaigning for reelection. Generating funds directly or indirectly from the ultra-wealthy, who can now control the decisions that every member of Congress makes. The wealthy elite also has a vested interest in seeing that the congressmen that they've bought and paid for get reelected. This happens in other aspects of our government as well. We just saw a state Supreme Court race where over $90 million was spent. $20 million was donated by one wealthy individual. The previous election cycle for Congress saw over $21 billion spent in the election. And who do you suppose is donating all this money? The wealthy elite and large corporations that oftentimes were started on the vision of a few individuals, but ultimately are built on the backs of tens of thousands of hardworking Americans. That's right. You do all the work, they call the shots with their money. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe the vote of one wealthy individual should count for more than your vote? I don't believe it should. If you don't believe it should either, stick with me just a little bit longer because I do believe that there's hope. For many in Congress, there's another motivation that is as strong or stronger than the greed. And it's not to be a public servant or serve their constituents. No, it's just the opposite. It's about controlling other people. The idea of having that much control to some is more addictive than many drugs. They're often easy to spot. They're the ones making the most noise and often the most outlandish claims. It does not matter whether their actions actually benefit their constituents or hurt them. It's about power and hanging on to it as long as they can. All of these self-serving individuals lack the imagination or common sense to come up with real, meaningful solutions to the problems facing our country. Instead, they strip away the rights of the many because of the actions of a few. That's not the kind of leadership I want. I don't believe it's the kind of leadership you want either. Believe it or not, this is not the worst corruption that we've seen, or the most outlandish examples of our Congress being bought and paid for. Ever heard of the term robber barons? It comes from a time in this country's history often referred to as the Gilded Age. It's a time when it was open practice for the ultra-wealthy to pay off politicians who would then serve the wealthy elite and not the majority of their constituents. They really did call these people robbers. I'm not making this stuff up. Look it up for yourself. I mentioned this glimpse of our past for one reason. There was a time when things were politically worse than they are right now. And we came back from that. We can do that again. It won't be easy, it won't happen overnight, and it won't happen at all unless we collectively take targeted and massive action. So how do we change this? I believe the first step is to get term limits established for Congress. I'm not going to take the time here to go into the benefits of term limits because the vast majority of you already support term limits. A Pew Research poll showed that 87% of Americans, regardless of political affiliation, favored term limits. If you're not quite sold on term limits, I put a link in the description below to a video that outlines the pros and cons of term limits. Again, both Republicans and Democrats strongly support the idea of term limits. 90% Republicans, 86% of Democrats polled, so they favored establishing term limits for Congress. So here's the billion-dollar question. If the vast majority of people in this country are in favor of term limits, why has nothing changed? Bills have been introduced in Congress by both sides, so I don't think it's partisan. I believe this issue, like so many others, is resisted by big money and big political machines because they fear losing control of the Congress they stole from us. But the real reason that term limits have not been enacted is because we have not collectively and emphatically demanded it. Yep, we be snoozing, and we'd have allowed the ultra-wealthy to quietly take over. I'm as guilty as you, but no more. It is important that we all understand that our civic responsibility doesn't end with just going out and casting our vote. Speaking of voting, the 26th Amendment, the one granting the right to vote for 18-year-olds, took only 3 months and 8 days to get ratified by the states. Why? Because the people demanded it. Of the 27 amendments to the Constitution, 7 took 1 year or less to become law of the land. Again, all because of public pressure. So how do we demand it? How do we fight back against the influence of big money? While I was doing my research on all of this, I came across a number of presentations that were well thought out and very articulate on how to bring our government back to what we, the people, want it to be and do. Many people have started grassroots organizations intended to do just this. I found that much of this information gave me hope, but also left me disappointed because they all lacked a call to action that was specific, targeted, and potentially massive in impact, yet simple and easy for all of us to do. What if I told you that we as a collective of frustrated, concerned citizens have unquestionably the ability to inundate each member of Congress with more than 15 times the normal volume of correspondence that they receive? And it's not spread out over a dozen or so issues. This is all on one issue: term limits. How, you say? The answer lies in technology and a paradigm shift around that technology. The technology, you're looking at it. YouTube. Now, don't start laughing. It's the paradigm shift that makes this work. We think of YouTube primarily as entertainment or sometimes education. But if we tie in specific and targeted action steps and use the technology as the vehicle for communication, asking our friends and family to join in, the potential impact is unfathomable. And remember, 87% of them already want this. Let me explain. In the last election, there were over 238 million votes cast. That's a bunch. But we have the ability to put this message in front of over 200 million people in this country in the next 30 days. That still leaves the question, why would members of Congress pass legislation that will effectively put an end to their term in Congress? If we all follow through, members of Congress will be more afraid of us than they are of big money or big political machines. There is strength in numbers. There's immense strength in immense numbers. For those of you who want to geek out on the numbers, I put a link to a video in the description below that breaks it all down. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that this one campaign will automatically bring about the desired results, but I'm confident that if you follow through on the action steps that I'm getting ready to lay out, we will have created a network big enough, a movement of our own, that will bring about this change and subsequent changes in the future to take our country back. I believe that term limits is the right first step because the vast majority of us already want it. It will fundamentally change the character of our Congress going forward, and it will give us a victory and momentum to carry us on to other issues in the future. If the notion of having our employees working for us again appeals to you, I'm going to ask you for about 30 minutes of your time so that we can get the ball rolling on bringing about this fundamental change that will not only positively impact our country, but in fact, the world. There are two things that I'm going to ask you to do. It won't take much time, and it doesn't have to cost you anything if you elect to send emails instead of letters. If you do choose to send letters out, then it's going to cost you about $5. First, I'm going to ask you to share this with 10 people. Pick 10 people, click the share button, copy the link, put it in a text, and send it to them, letting them know where you stand. Remember, you already know that there's an 87% chance that they want this too. If you like, feel free to share this on Facebook or any other social media platform that you use. But be sure to send out the 10 texts. Second, I'm asking you to send letters or emails to each of your 2 senators and the representative from your district. I've provided links to some suggested sample letters in the description below, as well as provided links for looking up your contact information, addresses, and/or emails for your senators and your representatives. I will be doing update videos as this campaign progresses, and I'll be producing other videos on steps we need to work on in order to take our country back. So go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to be kept up to date. I'm getting the ball rolling, but I need you to help it roll into the Capitol with a full head of steam. Don't underestimate the impact that you can have with 30 minutes of action. We have the collective desire and the technology to bring about one of the most meaningful positive changes ever made in our government. The only reason this wouldn't work is if people don't follow through. If everyone pitches in, the momentum will take over. We'll get this first step done. We'll also have started a movement of ordinary people accomplishing extraordinary steps in building a government we the people would like to leave for our descendants. Don't make the mistake of thinking you can sit this one out, that the next guy or gal will pick up the slack, or that your letters don't really matter. That's exactly what the wealthy elite is counting on. Let's not let them win anymore. Today we take the first step. We're all in this together. You and you and you too. Remember who you're doing this for. What kind of a country do we want to leave them? And by the way, if for some reason you're not in favor of term limits, I respect your right to disagree with me. In fact, I'd go so far as to say you too should be writing your congressman. One of the things we most need in this country today is the ability to disagree with each other and yet still show each other respect. We're Americans. We damn sure aren't each other's enemy. Let's stop letting the wealthy elite turn us against each other. Thank you for your time. I welcome your comments, but please, let's take action today.